As the country enters the second day of lockdown, the government has decided to tighten the restriction that is in effect till 31st of March. The government also decided to purchase health equipment required to treat potential patients of coronavirus from private sectors. Meanwhile, the Indian government has imposed a nationwide lockdown in an attempt to slow the spread of the coronavirus from 3 weeks that came into effect at midnight local time. Good morning, I am Bipashna Tamang and these are the headlines of the hour. The country enters its second day of lockdown as a measure taken to contain the outbreak of COVID-19. The main streets of the capital remain deserted. Nepalese nationals coming from western borders to stay in quarantine for 14 days as the government decides to tighten the lockdown, which is in effect till 31st of March. The Indian government imposes a 21-day nationwide lockdown in an attempt to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Lockdown in China's Wuhan to be partially lifted on 8th of April. And Barcelona forward Lionel Messi and Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola each donate €1 million towards the fight against coronavirus. As the lockdown enters its second day today in a bid to contain the possible outbreak of novel coronavirus, the main streets of the capital remain deserted. Most of the dwellers in the capital are supporting the government's decision by staying at home. The government imposed the lockdown throughout the country from yesterday and will remain till 31st of March. On the first day of the lockdown yesterday, the capital streets looked most barren, while markets and small retail shops remained closed. There was heavy presence of security officials as they had been urging the general public not to come out of their homes except for emergency purposes. All domestic and international flights have been grounded, while border transits have been closed as well. As per the Infectious Disease Act, the authority can penalize an individual for a minimum of 1 month in jail if they are found to flout the ruling. The government has decided to tighten the lockdown that is in effect till 31st of March. The first meeting of the high-level committee formed by the government to deal with the threat of coronavirus held at Singhadarbar yesterday decided to tighten the lockdown and deal with any loopholes seen in its implementation. The committee has decided to purchase health equipment required to treat potential patients of coronavirus from private sectors. Finance Minister Yuvraj Khatioda informed that the committee decided to provide cargo facilities to private vendors who can procure essential equipment from abroad at the earliest. Minister Khatioda stated that the committee had reached the decision citing official processes for procuring the equipment from India or China would be lengthy.
मेडिकल किटहरू चीन र भारत दुवैतर्फ परराष्ट्र अर्थ मन्त्रालयले समन्वय गरिरहेको छ तर सरकारी तौरबाट गरिने यस्ता आपूर्तिहरूमा केही समय अवश्य पनि लाग्छ सङ्कलन हुँदै गरेका केही विवरणहरू हामीलाई प्राप्त छन् तर त्यो भन्दा छिटो निजी क्षेत्रले ल्याउन सक्छ भने हामी निजी क्षेत्रका व्यवसायहरूलाई पनि सूचना जारी गरेर पारदर्शी ढंगले व्यवस्थित ढंगले निश्चित दिनभित्र ल्याउनको लागि आह्वान गर्ने त्यसको लागि यातायातको साधनको अभाव हुन्छ हवाई सेवाको अभाव हुन्छ भने त्यो पनि नेपाल सरकारले प्रदान गर्ने गरी निर्णय गरेको छ.
Meanwhile, regarding the issue of many Nepalese nationals who flocked the western border transits with India due to the lack of prior information of the sealing of the borders, Minister Khatioda stated the government had decided to open the borders only for yesterday if the homecoming Nepalese nationals remain in quarantine for 2 weeks. The meeting also directed the provincial and local government to ensure that the individuals strictly remain in quarantine. Likewise, the committee stated that the borders would be completely sealed from today onwards. The committee has also decided to prohibit private organizations from establishing funds for the prevention of the coronavirus outbreak. In case of funds that have already been established, the committee directed the funds to avoid collecting money from anybody outside of the respective organizations. On the first day of the lockdown yesterday, the Gaurifanta and Gadda Chowki transits remained tense throughout the day. The two transits at Gaurifanta and Gadda Chowki remained tense as Nepalese nationals who had arrived from different neighboring Indian cities were barred from entering into Nepal. After they forcefully tried to enter the Nepalese territory, the security deployed at the transit resorted to baton charging to take the situation under control. The stranded Nepalese nationals were only allowed to enter the country following the government's decision to open the border in late yesterday afternoon. The provincial government decided to send all the homecoming nationals into a 14-day quarantine. The decision allowed over 900 Nepalese nationals who were stranded at Gaurifanta transit for 12 hours to enter Nepal. Meanwhile, in Kantipur, the homecoming Nepalese nationals used various border points to enter Nepal after they were barred from crossing the Gadda Chowki transit. They entered Nepal using the open border at Dodhara Chandani. And it's time now for a short break. For more news, do stay with us. Welcome back. The lack of adequate laboratories to test samples for coronavirus has left the government and the public worried. Currently, the only laboratory that can test samples for the virus is at Teku in the capital. However, to add some relief at this time of national crisis, the Tribhuvan University has announced that its laboratory is now ready to carry out sample tests. The National Public Health Laboratory in the capital can barely test 100 sputum samples for coronavirus a day. This had the public worrying in case they needed to take a test. Considering the need of the hour, the Tribhuvan University has stated that its laboratory has all modern equipment and human resources to carry out the tests. The university has, however, urged the government to provide necessary kits to begin the tests. Samples from 660 individuals as of yet have been tested in Nepal with 2 confirmed cases of COVID-19 virus. And time now for the international update. The Indian government has imposed a nationwide lockdown in an attempt to slow the spread of coronavirus. The restrictions came into force at midnight local time and will be enforced for 21 days. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during his address to the nation yesterday evening, announced the lockdown. Premier Modi appealed for people not to panic. However, the public quickly mobbed stores in the capital, Delhi and other cities. The new measures follow a sharp increase in cases in recent days. There have been 519 confirmed cases across India and 10 reported deaths. India, which has a population of 1.3 billion, joins a growing list of countries that have imposed similar measures. More than 400,000 people have tested positive for the virus worldwide, with deaths exceeding 18,000. Meanwhile, the lockdown in Wuhan, the Chinese city where the global coronavirus outbreak began, will be partially lifted on 8th of April. A single new case of the virus was reported in Wuhan yesterday, following almost a week of no new cases. Countries around the world have gone into lockdown or imposed severe curbs. Wuhan has been shut off from the rest of the world since the middle of January. But officials now say anyone who has a green code on a widely used smartphone health app will be allowed to leave the city from 8th of April. It comes after health officials there confirmed that they were not counting cases of people who were positive but had not been admitted to hospital or did not show any symptoms of the disease. Official government figures say there have been almost 80 new cases reported on the Chinese mainland in the last 24 hours. All but 4 of them were caused by infected travelers arriving from abroad. This so-called second wave of imported infections is also affecting countries like South Korea and Singapore, which had been successful in stopping the spread of disease in recent weeks. And we have more news coming up, but right now it's time for yet another short break. Welcome back. And in our Public Voice segment, we had asked the daily wage workers at the Butwal industrial area what precautions have they been taking to protect themselves from the coronavirus infection. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public voice.
तातो पानी हामी अब खाएको छौँ रेगुलर हैन अब त्यही अब साबुन पानीले हात धुउने राम्रोसँग धोकै छौँ अनि त्यसपछि जाँदाखेरि अब कपडा पनि अब चेन्ज गरेर जुन कपडा छ त्यो कपडालाई अब धोइधाइ गरेर राम्रोसँग गरेर अनि त्यस्तो अपनाएको छौँ हामी
सुगर सेवा सफा राख्नु पर्यो लुगा फेर्नु पर्यो नुहाइधुवाइ गर्नु पर्यो यही हो
मास्क लगाइएछ काम गरिरहेछ आउँदाखेरि यहाँ गेटमा साबुन पानीले हात धोएर छिरिरहेको जाँदाखेरि पनि त्यही हो
अब जस्तो हिसाबले जानकारी हामीले सुनिरहेका छौँ न्युजहरूमा त्यो अनुसारले हामीले काम गरिरहेका छौँ मार्च लगाइएको छ दायाँ बायाँ एकै ठाउँमा ग्रुप भएर काम गरिरहेका छौँ दायाँ बायाँ भएर गरिरहेका छौँ
हामीले मास्क लगाएर काम गरेका छौँ भित्र छिर्दाखेरि हात चाहिँ साबुन पानी धोएर छिरेछौँ अनि यहाँ 8 घन्टै चाहिँ मास्क लगाएर काम गर्छौँ
अहिले मास्क लगाइएछ अनि चाहिँ अब साथीभाइसित हात मिलाइएको छैन ठुलो मान्छेसित नमस्कार गरेछ अनि गरम पानी खाइएछ
बाहिर सुरुमा आउँदाखेरि नै हात धुन लाउनुहुन्छ गेटमा अनि यहाँ आएपछि नि मास्क दिनुहुन्छ मास्क लाउँछौँ अनि
साबुन पानीले हात धोइएको छ अनि आछिम गर्दाखेरि हातले मुख छोपेको छ अनि जनवारको नजिक गइए छैन
हामीले यस्तो धारा फारा बनाइराखेका छौँ हात धुनलाई यस्तो सरसफाइमा धेरै ध्यान दिइराखेका छौँ हामीले त्यो मास्क पनि लगाएर हामी साथीहरूसँग हात पनि मिलाएकै छैन
And it's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public pulse.
And here's the question: what can be done to make the lockdown more effective? The options are option A, increase security; option B, public should be more aware; and option C, punish the violators. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your options A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And time now for the sports update.
Sports news.
Barcelona forward Lionel Messi and Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola have each donated €1 million towards the fight against coronavirus. Argentina international player Messi's donation will be split between hospital clinic in Barcelona and another medical center in his home country. Former Barcelona player and manager Guardiola made his contribution to a campaign launched by the Angel Soler Daniel Foundation and Medical College of Barcelona. Before Guardiola made his donation, the campaign had raised €33,000 in 3 days. Spain is the country worst affected by the disease in Europe outside of Italy, with 2,696 deaths and almost 40,000 positive cases. The region of Catalonia, where Guardiola is from and where Messi has lived since joining Barca at the age of 13, is one of the worst affected parts in Spain. Japan and the International Olympics Committee have decided to delay this year's Tokyo Games into 2021 as the coronavirus crisis impacted the world's last major imminent sporting event. The Olympics is being postponed for the first time in its 124-year history. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said yesterday evening that the event would be rescheduled for the summer of 2021 at the latest. However, the postponement of the Olympics is a massive logistical headache for host Japan, which has pumped in more than $12 billion of investment. In view of the ongoing crisis situation brought about by the novel coronavirus, we have decided to drop our special segment Laugh Out Loud and replace it with a special report on COVID-19, the deadly virus.
On Monday, dozens of coffins carrying coronavirus victims from Lombardy lined up in a cemetery church in northern Italy as the death toll in Italy climbed to over 6,000. Next to Lombardy, a double line of coffins led silently inside a little chapel of the Serville Srivia crematorium near Alexandria in the northern region of Piedmont. Workers struggled to give proper burials for each person as the numbers they were dealing with kept on increasing. French health authorities reported 186 new deaths from coronavirus on Monday, taking the total to 860, an increase of 28% as the country headed for a second week of lockdown. The number of cases has climbed to almost 20,000, with over 2,000 people in a critical condition needing life support in France. South Korea reported 76 new coronavirus cases on Tuesday, maintaining a downward trend in new infections and raising hopes that Asia's largest outbreak outside China may be slowing. On Monday, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the government would impose a nationwide 21-day lockdown from midnight on March 26 to contain the coronavirus outbreak. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for a global ceasefire so the world can focus on fighting the coronavirus pandemic. So far, over 382,000 people have been infected and over 16,569 have died. The spread of the highly contagious COVID-19 respiratory illness has drawn comparisons with painful periods such as World War II, the 2008 financial crisis, and the 1918 Spanish flu.
Our world faces a common enemy, COVID-19. The virus does not care about nationality or ethnicity, faction or face. It attacks all relentlessly. Meanwhile, armed conflict rages on around the world. The most vulnerable, women and children, people with disabilities, the marginalized and displaced, pay the highest price. They are also at the highest risk of suffering devastating losses from COVID-19.
The United Nations has been trying to mediate an end to conflicts in countries including Syria, Yemen and Libya, while also providing humanitarian assistance to millions of civilians.
And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories one more time. The country enters its second day of lockdown as a measure taken to contain the outbreak of COVID-19. The main streets of the capital remain deserted. Nepalese nationals coming from western borders to stay in quarantine for 14 days as the government decides to tighten the lockdown, which is in effect till 31st of March. The Indian government imposes a 21-day nationwide lockdown in an attempt to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Lockdown in China's Wuhan to be partially lifted on 8th of April. And Barcelona forward Lionel Messi and Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola each donate €1 million towards the fight against coronavirus. And that's all for the moment. Keep watching Kantipur Television HD for more news and entertainment. Thanks for watching. Have a good day ahead.